Okay, I hope you can hear me. So thanks, Luis, for the session. I'm sorry, my bad. My throat is very bad, and so I might sound little weird. Okay, but I'll try to keep up. I hope you can see my screen.
Yes, we do.
Okay, let me do a presentation mode. Okay, so again, I'm Rachit. I'm representing India and the consortium, FIESTA consortium. So what I'll talk about is about experimentation uh, and how we can perform experiments over FIESTA IoT infrastructure and the tools that we have provided. So just to go over a brief overview of what FIESTA is basically this is the complete can say complete architectural overview of FIESTA. So it's actually divided into two parts. One is the part that is above IoT registry, and one is the part that is below IoT registry. IoT registry is basically the repository which stores all the data that has been annotated, semantically annotated based on FIESTA ontology that Tarek just presented. And and the part that is below is basically all the test beds that send their data to IoT registry. So you do not, as an experimenter, you need not worry about what these test beds are doing in order to annotate the data and how it is pushed. So that is not our concern. Our concern is mainly the part that lies above this IoT registry, basically how we can access this data and how we can perform experimentation on the data that has been provided to us. So remember, as also like Paul said, all these tools that are represented here, they are behind security. So you need to first log in, provide credentials so as to access the APIs and the tools. So as an experimenter, basically what I have in this slide is basically the part that is above IoT registry. And here you can see there are many tools that are available as to experimenters to see what data is present. Starting off with monitoring. So with this monitoring, this will be presented later on. What it does is basically gives you an overview of what all test beds are producing data and what all sensors are actually producing data and providing it to IoT registry so that you can use it. So this is a very brief overview. Reasoning is basically provides you the tools where you can actually reason the data that is available. So basically do some inferences on that. Again, this tool will be presented to you later. This can be directly accessed by portal and the APIs that are there, so you can access them. Another way that I will be talking throughout my presentation today and probably will give you a demo is basically this part here, where you can, as an experimenter, you can create the specification and execute that specification on IoT registry and receive that data and perform your experiments. Okay, so this part I will talk about in detail in the next slides. Another part is, if you do not want to use any of these tools that we have provided you here, you can directly access IoT registry APIs and get data from IoT registry. So there are APIs, you just log in, authenticate yourself and use the token and have access to the data using those APIs. Again, these APIs will be presented to you later in the talks today. So let me focus on the part that is here, basically how you can create your experiment. So for us, an experiment is basically a DSL. So you write your DSL, you provide it to us, we will execute it for you, and we'll give the results to you. So basically, what an experimenter has to do is create a DSL using editor. It can be XML editor or the editor tool that we provide. This DSL is then stored. We store it, and the specifications that you provide is actually read by the execution engine and is directly sent to IoT registry or to analytics tool based on whichever specification you provide. Okay, so if you say, okay, we want to use analytics, um, also we will execute the specification on analytics tool and give you analyzed results. The APIs for analytics tool will be provided to you in few next presentations. So I'll not go into details of that. So now, if once the specification is executed, which according which to us is basically the Sparkle query, and at a certain regular interval, that if once that is executed, it is the result that is provided by IoT registry is sent to you, to experimenters basically. So what you need to do is basically enable a receiver on your side so that it can receive data. Okay. Now, in case this receiver is not available, what we do is we internally store this result so that later on you can get this result from the repository. So we have a dedicated API for this, where you can directly access it and get the results. Now, note that in order to start executing your experiment or the specification that you have built on execution engine, or basically getting the data, you need to follow certain steps. Okay, this is basically coming from the workflow side that you need to follow. So you need to do log in, basically go to execution management console and say, okay, I want to start this particular experiment now, or to pause my experiment now, and I do not want to receive data for this specific experiment now. So this functionality is also provided, and this is managed by EMC, which is the management console. Okay. Of course, as said before, you can directly access IoT registry APIs bypassing all these tools that I have presented here. Okay. So given those tools that are available, there are different phases also that we have come up with. So one is the design phase, execution phase, and the evaluation phase. So in the design phase, we ask you to get your experiments, what you should be clear what your experiments are doing, what resources you need, what is present in Fiesta, and how you can use them. So all that thing comes in the design phase. Define your KPIs, etc. Execution phase is basically writing your DSLs, describing your experiment basically, and executing them on the tools that we have. And evaluation is basically once you have received your the data, then you see, okay, if your KPIs are met, or if there is something that you need to improve and re-execute your experiments. Within here also, we will request from you also a document where we will evaluate your experiments. Okay, so it's both ways. So you evaluating us, and we evaluating you. So it's this evaluation phase. So what is the integrated workflow that we have? Okay, so you first create a DSL, set up a data receiver on your side, log in to Fiesta portal, upload your DSL using the clients that we have, the repository management client, etc. Save your DSL, of course, and go to management console, select whichever experiment you want to execute, and enable the execution. Okay, so having said that, so what a DSL for us is? DSL for us is basically a fetch spec. Okay, I'll show you the template in a short while. This is the Fiesta experiment description specification. It contains two parts, basically a FEMO and a FISMO. FEMO is experiment modeling object, and FISMO is the service modeling object. A FEMO basically describes the overall experiment, what it experiment does and stuff like that. A FISMO is more detailed one. Basically, it contains all the scheduling objects, the query that you want to execute, and stuff like that. Okay. So this here is basically a template of a FEMO and a FISMO. Basically, a FEMO contains a FEMO name, description, domain of interest, etc. We recommend you to please go through the handbook. I will not be describing in detail all of these because of short time and I have a very bad throat, sorry. So basically, you need all these, and in FISMO, you need things like whether it's discoverable, which is true or false, the scheduling parameter, which are important, the start time, stop time, and the periodicity, the URL location, basically where this data that has for the query that has been generated should be sent to. So this should be provided. And in case you want to use FIESTA analytics tool, which is the flat tool, you specify the widget parameter in this format. Please note, we will provide you this template and a sample experiment that we have created internally for your reference. Okay. Here, please note all these the tick marks that you see here. They are the required fields. So in case you miss them, the experiment will not be executed correctly, and you will see some issues. Okay. Now within this FISMO object, there is a parameter for query, which is basically the Sparkle query that you will provide. Then there are also the possibilities of providing dynamic attributes. So say suppose if you want to execute your query for the latest data, like past 10 minutes data, then you can just specify this interval now to past and say, okay, give me the data that was available from now until 10 minutes past. So this is also possible. So you can specify this. Note that here, in this case, if you have from date time to date time and interval now to past, the preference will be given to interval now to pass. Okay, so because this is more important than from and to specific dates. Okay, and similarly, latitude and longitude information can also be provided, and other parameters that you want to have in the query as a dynamic attribute. Okay. So some of the best practices that we recommend you to follow by creating your fit specs or the DSLs or the configuration files, basically, are not to provide any information which doesn't sound correct. Okay, meaning when you provide the name attribute, you should not use like something called test or blah blah or something for which is not understandable by you or others. Later, provide some description so that you know what it is doing. Always have your access token for for your user ID. Okay. Start time and stop time. Of course, these are two parameters, and stop time should be greater than start time. You should not have the other way around. Okay. Because otherwise it will just not execute your experiment. For periodicity, this is another important aspect that we recommend you. In order to not to overload the FIESTA infrastructure, we recommend you not to execute your query or provide this periodicity to 1 second or below. Okay, because what will happen is if you say so, execution engine will query IoT registry at that rate, which will just overkill the system. So and also what will happen is you might get the same data again and again because some test beds are not producing data at this level, this rate. So we would recommend you not to use this periodicity value, which is less than 10 minutes. Okay, so it should be more than 10 minutes. For dynamic attributes, like all these that are specified within the query, we recommend you to provide them so that execution engine could manipulate that and manipulate your query and execute it correctly. Okay. Of course, this is the most important one, the URL location. This should be reachable. Okay. In case this is not, yes, the execution engine will not be able to send the data that has been generated towards your query, and it will be stored in in result storage. So you should at least take care of having this correctly set up so that it could send data. Of course, not provide queries such as star SPO, which is basically useless because you might get same data again and again, and it's also against the policies because it will block others, and it will be expensive query. Because follow input formats from that has been provided to FAT and get your experiment evaluated. Okay. So these are just some more inputs. So basically, experiment registry is handled by ERM, which is the registry module. It provides code-based APIs. Not go into details because you will probably not need them. So it's not actually needed here. Experiment management and execution. Basically, what it does is handled by execution engine, where all your configuration that is stored in the ERM is read by execution engine and executed. So basically, what it does is execution engine creates a job based on your scheduling parameters and execute the query that you provided on IoT registry based on these scheduling parameters. Of course, on IoT registry and analytics toolkit. Okay. So for the receiver, we actually provide you a very simple code to actually install it on your site so that you can use it. It is there. You just need to configure it. It's available on the link that you see here on GitLab. GitHub, sorry. It's available. You can download. You can install it, and it'll set up a receiver for you. So all the executions will be received by this receiver and will be stored in a folder. Okay. Okay. A sample storage or of results of the result format that is provided is something like it's just basically a JSON format that I have here, but you can, as specified by Tariq, you can have different formats here as well. So here vars are basically the parameters that are there in your select query, the select parameters basically. So as an example, it can be lat, long time, the sensor ID, data value, and observation. So basically, here you can see the rows. Each row would be something like lat information, long, and stuff like that. So this is a sample result, but this is how it will be stored in the result repository, result storage in case it is not provided to you. Okay. So the API to access this is basically experiment result store. It's a GET API. You just need to provide your token, the ID, the FEMO ID, and the job ID. This is something I will show you how to get them. It's very easy, and I'll walk through a piece of the experiment that I have created for this demo and show you how to get that. Okay. So in case you want to use this API, you can directly access. Okay. Note in future we will support this UI, this API also by a UI, and probably it will be soon be released to you. Okay. Some notes. There are some documentation provided also for the APIs. You can have a look at the execution engine API docs that is provided and other API docs that are available, and of course the handbook that is provided to you. Okay. Other resources acts. This is something that Tarek has already mentioned, so I'm not going into details of this. Okay, so let me show you a quick demo. I hope it works. Okay. So I hope you can see my screen, right? I hope yes. So this is basically, I have already logged into platform production machine. So the later you will be told about how to browse through these menus and have a feel of the portal. So this is the portal. Okay, so as an experimenter, you will probably go to the experimenter role here, and you will just see this, not the testbed, not the provider role. So here, once your DSL is ready, or the configuration is ready, you just go to the client, register client, and open a file spec that is available and say save. So I have already done it for this demo. Okay, here you can actually see whatever you have stored, export it or delete. Okay, now once this is done, you go to management console. You will see something like this. Okay, so I have one FEMO available. Okay, so this is the ID of the FEMO. Okay, the name of the experiment. So when I do a select, I will see some more details about it. Okay, so experiment ID, which is the FEMO ID. This is something that you will need. Okay, this is something that you will need. Okay, then you will see some other description and the domain of interest of this experiment. Then here in the next panel, you will actually see the associated FISMOs. Basically, you will see the name, the owner, the status of it. You can restart or stop it. The log, you can see the logs if there are any logs that are available. Okay, and I have a small screen. Sorry. This works. And you can do a poll now or a delete. Okay, poll now, basically what it does is if you want to execute your query out of the schedule, you just want to get the result and see if it's working. So you just click on poll now and it will give you the result. And then you can also delete this FISMO from the execution. So I can do a delete and you'll see it successfully deleted. It will be clean. Okay. Now here you see there is no job ID defined yet for this FISMO because it's not running on the execution engine. So what you have to do is start this on the execution engine and say, okay, start it, and you will see this job ID. So you need this job ID and this FEMO ID to actually access the repository or the result repository, basically. Okay, so here right now the status is normal, so it means that the job is running and the status is running. So then you can say pause, it will pause the job and it will update and saying the status is paused. Okay, of course, as said before, you can delete it. Okay, now what you can also do is basically have or you can see some more FISMOs that are available, and you can just reuse them if they are available. So you can click on any one of them, say you select, you can see here, and then just provide your URL. So say suppose HTTP say store. This is something that I'm just making up, and see. Okay, something happened. Okay, so then you can do a subscribe. So once you do a subscribe, it will say, okay, subscribed, and you will see things appearing here. It says this is a job ID, the name, you are the subscriber, it's running normally, and you can start and stop or unsubscribe this experiment. Okay, so I'll pause this right now. Okay, so this is a very basic overview of the management console and the stuff that you can use and how you can execute your queries and your experiment on the Fiesta infrastructure. Okay, let me go back to the presentation. Okay, so yeah, that's all from my side. Now you will probably see in more detail other tools that are available or made available by us. In case you have any questions, let me know or let us know. We'll try to answer them.